Hi there, Anna McKinley here. It's great to have you here with me as well. Now, I would like to share with you something that builds on the theme I've chosen for myself for this week, which is you get out of life what you put into it. And what I'd like to share with you is an insight about that, which is that we get out of our minds what we put into them. Ooh, what do I mean by that? This is one of those really powerful life insights that you can choose to completely change your experience of life. Are you in for that? Cool. So here's the thing. You've probably heard the saying before, you become what you focus on. What we focus on, we become. And that is absolutely true. In fact, that's based on neuroscience. What we focus on becomes wired into our brain. What we do repeatedly becomes literally wired in to who we are. We become that. But here's another really interesting dimension on that. Have you ever noticed, if you go out and buy a new car, say, there might not have been any of that car on the roads to the best of your knowledge until you went and bought that particular make, model, and color. And then you drive it proudly out of the car lot, and suddenly the cars are everywhere. Everyone's got one. It's the same with outfits or shoes or whatever. As soon as we focus on it, we see them everywhere, right? Have you ever had that happen to you? So here's the thing. In our minds, we get out what we put in. Our mind is absorbing information from our environment constantly, all the time, at a huge rate. There've been studies done on this, which come up with different estimates, but I've seen estimates as high as, and this is estimates of the amount of data that goes into our brain every second. I've seen estimates as high as between 4 and 6 billion bits of data. That's mind-blowing, isn't it? 4 to 6 billion bits of data go into our brain every second. Do you think we are consciously aware of all of that? Goodness, if we each had to process that much information every second, we wouldn't be able to function, right? Our conscious mind can only process a very small part of it, but that information is still in there, rattling around, right? Another interesting result of research in this field is that for the average human being, in fact, for all of us human beings, most of what we think, feel, and do is actually driven by the subconscious or unconscious part of our mind. So all of this information goes in and our subconscious and unconscious sort of process it all and then pops up with a suggestion to us as to how we should feel, how we should think, how we should act in a particular situation. So this stuff going on underneath our consciousness is driving, for the average person, between 95 and 97% of how we think, how we speak, and what we do each day, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say what we put in is what we get out. Knowing this, isn't it worth asking ourselves, so what am I allowing in here? A client of mine put this beautifully a few years ago. We were talking about this issue and she looked at me and she sort of pondered for a moment and she tapped her head like this and she said, so Anna, this is not a rubbish bin. Exactly. Have you ever noticed how there are certain people in the world that if you spend time with them, you come away from it feeling down and nothing quite seems to go right? And there are people in the world that when you spend time with you feel uplifted, you feel motivated, you feel inspired, and that just flows through into the rest of your day. Well, this applies across the board to whatever it is that we're feeding our mind. So here's the point of this conversation with you today. What are you feeding your mind? What is it that you're allowing in? Who is it that you're spending time with? What are the blogs that you're reading? What are you looking at on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter and the blogs that you're reading and the internet sites that you're visiting and the television that you're watching? Not that there's anything wrong with these things, but ask yourself, is the information that I'm feeding my mind from what I'm looking at, is that going to help me to create a positive, inspiring, constructive, empowered life? Is that going to help me create the experience of life that I want? Or is it actually bringing me down? To go back to the car metaphor, with everything that I'm putting into my mind, is that the car I actually want to be driving? Or do I want to be driving something else? Right? So something that can be quite a useful exercise to do to really get a handle on this is actually do a little kind of inventory and ask yourself, what is it I'm feeding my mind? What am I visiting on the internet? What is it that I'm reading? What is it that I'm watching and listening to? The people that I'm spending time with. Now, some of the stuff we might not be able to completely change. Some of it will be positive. The thing to do is do an inventory, have a look at what you're currently feeding your mind and ask yourself, are there any changes that I want to make so that I can boost my level of inspiration, motivation, optimism, the positive emotion, positive engagement that I have with my life? Because you can dramatically change your outlook and experience in life by changing what you're feeding your mind. It's a fun thing to have a play with. So if you are up for the journey of changing your experience of life, taking it to a new level, then that's one simple strategy that you can use to add into your toolkit and to boost your experience of life, your enjoyment, and your happiness all around the board. All right. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I've shared with you today. So scroll down now and leave a comment. And of course, if you know anyone else who you feel this content would help, then please feel free to share it with them. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you on another video soon. Bye for now.